Welcome back to Coffee Chats with ChimeInSis. I am Rosalind, the host, and today we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm actually going to be sharing more about my personal career story. I've had a few people that have asked me about how I successfully transitioned from the classroom to the corporate space, and we're going to talk about all of that today. So go and grab your coffee mug and let's chat. So let's start off with what I do. So I'm currently an instructional designer. Basically, what that means is that I create engaging learning content for companies that helps to ramp up their employees with the new skills and technologies that the company is using. So I will tell you that I love what I do. I love who I do it for. I love the company. I love the opportunities that I've had to come about in this, about 10 months that I've been there. Love it, love it, love it. The process of how I got here is a little bit more non-traditional because I did start out in the public education space. So I actually taught as an elementary educator for 7 years, and I will tell you that when I first started, I loved what I did. So actually, I need to take a little bit of a step back. I feel like I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher from the time that I was an adolescent. Not only did I know, did I have positive experiences with the teachers who taught me, but also I had a lot of educators in my family, and so seeing their love for what they did, for the children that they served, for the communities that they served, it was so admirable. And so when I went to MTSU in 2010, it was like a no-brainer. I was like, I'm going to school to be a teacher, and after that I'm going to be a principal and then a superintendent, and I'm going to work for the Department of Education. I'm going to be a change agent. That was what I wanted to do, and I will tell you that I was on that track, okay? If you know me, then you know that I was very serious about my schooling. I actually went on to receive my bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies, K6, in 2014, and that basically means I got my degree in elementary education. And then in 2015, I got my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And so that focuses more so on the curriculum design element. And I will tell you, when I was in school, like I said, I was really serious. I had a 4.0 for undergrad and then a 3.9 that I'm still upset about in grad school. And I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about some of the changes that we've made, or that I've made more so in like who I am and kind of my personality and things like that. And she was like, when you were in school, you were so uptight. And I will tell you, I definitely was. But going back to the story, so I was on that path. I wanted to be that change agent in education. And for the first 5 years, I will tell you that I loved what I did. I enjoyed being able to interact with the kids. I enjoyed being able to interact with the parents. I love just every aspect of it. I love being able to have an impact on their learning, but then also being able to connect with them and give them the high fives and the hugs and be their confidant and be their advocates. Like, I loved everything about teaching, and to this day I still feel like I do have some love for it. I think that it's still there, but it looks a lot different. So at that year 5 mark, a lot of things changed. For one, I got married. My husband and we got married in 2019. And then after that, we relocated to Dallas, Texas. You combine being a new mom, trying to be a good wife, being in a new city, not having a lot of support around, wanting to do something different in your career. It was like there were so many factors that were playing a part in me just feeling like I want out. I want something new. And so in that 2 to 3 year time span, there were a lot of things that changed. The first thing would be the mindset. So I actually read a book that said that being a better you is not so much about being different, but it's about really being able to find the beauty in who you are and where you are in that moment. And when I read that, it was like a light bulb moment. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm supposed to be here in the classroom for a little while longer. Maybe I'm supposed to enjoy some of the flexibility of teaching, so that I can pour into being a mom and doing other things outside of like everything that I had been preparing for, up until that moment that I became a teacher. Like I was so intentional about, and I was so hungry to be an educator. And so it was like, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. So I took that mindset on, and that definitely worked for a while. That thought of still wanting something more was there, but it wasn't as like aggressive as it was, in the beginning. So I took some time to really think about what I wanted next. And that part took a lot, because I remember even having conversations with my husband. I was like, I want to do something else. And he's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I think I want to do something in HR. And he's like, okay, what do you want to do in HR? And I was like, I don't know, HR. Which is really funny, because HR is so broad. Like, you can do so many things within HR. So that comes with me, like, just not having exposure. And so, we're having conversations, and he's like, well, what are some things that we can do that you can do, where you can leverage your experience in education? And so I was like, well, what about learning and development? And he's like, great. Sounds great. All right. What do you want to do in learning and development? And I'm like, learn and develop. I feel like at each level, it's like, okay, so what do you want to do within this? What do you want to do within this? So from there, I had to do some research and look at some of the career paths for teachers who had left the classroom and gone into the corporate space. And that is when I landed on instructional design. So once I got really focused on instructional design, I also had to take some time to say, okay, I know which role I want, but what does that look like? What is the pay like? Who do I work for? What type of work setup is it going to be? Is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be remote? There were a lot of things that I had to do a lot of research and reflection on to really understand and map out in my head what was going to be the best opportunity for me. And I think that was extremely important, because it helped me to be very intentional in the jobs that I applied to, but then also in my interviews, understanding what questions to ask and what characteristics to look for. So once I had kind of identified like what I wanted, and I'll be honest, it was kind of like a ping pong back and forth. Because as I was going through the interview process, I was learning things. I was constantly doing research. It was a constant back and forth. It wasn't completely linear. But kind of once I had a general idea of what I wanted, it helped me to go through those interviews more confidently. Something that I did find out during my research of instructional design was about the different authoring tools. And so I actually had the opportunity to create a portfolio, which was amazing. I learned a lot about the tools through that hands-on experience. And I think that also was a very important part of my journey. As a teacher, I never really had to have a physical or digital portfolio. My portfolio was basically the data and metrics showing the effectiveness of my teaching and how my kids performed on their assessments. So going through that process of learning the tools and then also creating that portfolio was so important. So on top of creating that portfolio, another thing that I had to do was learn how to, one, communicate the value of my experience, but then also be confident in that. So that was a huge element. We know that confidence is a huge part of, just showing up the best that we can. And when I was pivoting or trying to pivot into the corporate space, I really felt inadequate initially. I was like, I'm a teacher. I know that I have experience, but I'm not coming with the same background and the same knowledge that some of these other people are coming with. And so really being able to sit down, look at what I had done as a teacher, the tools that I had used, and seeing the correlation between that and the job listings that I was looking at, and being able to say, you know what? I do have some really valuable experience and skills, and being able to communicate that in a way that showed that I was, one, effective in what I did, but two, that I also was really committed to being a lifelong learner, was a game changer. So those, creating that portfolio, really understanding the value add, tailoring that narrative, those are really big things, those are really big parts of my process. So I will say that once I really got head down into it, it probably took me about 3 months to land the role that I'm in. And y'all, when I say I am happy, I am so happy now. And I think that it's truly holistic. I think it is, one, thinking that I am like a superhero because I grew a human. We could stop right there, but we'll keep going. Also, the fact that I was able to pivot from the classroom into the corporate space, just further proving to myself that I am capable of amazing things, and this confidence that I have in that, nothing can take that away. I mean, I still am in awe at the fact that I was able to do what I did when I did it. And yeah. Also, being more confident in my body and my style and just who I am as a person. All of this has come together, and I'm just so excited about where I am.